Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Wednesday, May 20th. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. On the road to recovery with both risk and reward in the balance, from local leaders to even hospitals opposing opinions on just how to make the next major moves responsibly. More on that in a moment, but first, sadly, 8 more people have died from the coronavirus in our county. There are also 114 new cases after a record day for testing. KPBS reporter John Carroll has the latest.
24 hours ago, we were reporting on the county's efforts to move further into Phase 2 of the state's 4-phased reopening plan. The Board of Supervisors also voted to ask if San Diego County could participate in a pilot program that would allow for some businesses in Phase 3 to begin reopening, specifically hair salons and gyms. But no word from the state yet on either of those, so it's status quo for now.
So please don't start lining up at your favorite restaurant or shop at stores. As soon as we have the go-ahead, we certainly will let you know.
The county did ease restrictions on funerals. They can now be held either inside or out. But Supervisor Nathan Fletcher said the now familiar restrictions still apply. Everyone attending must wear facial coverings, and at least 6 feet must be maintained between groups of people that aren't from the same household. As we head into the holiday weekend, Fletcher says the county is consulting with leadership from the coastal cities in moving toward more relaxing of restrictions surrounding beaches.
Potentially allowing things like sitting or staying or other types of things. We expect to hear back from them next week.
In other words, something to look forward to, but not in time for Memorial Day. Fletcher also said the county is making good progress toward its goal of testing 5,200 people a day. 4,802 people were tested over the last 24 hours. That's the most people tested over the course of a day yet. Progress in fits and starts, trying to move forward in a way that doesn't allow the virus to flare up in San Diego County after we've all done so much work to get where we are today. John Carroll, KPBS News.
San Diego County officials are moving forward with plans to reopen restaurants for dine-in service and retail stores, but KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman talked to some local healthcare systems who wanted more of a say in the final plan.
We want to see businesses open too. Scripps, like every healthcare system, is losing a ton of money right now, but we want to make sure we do it the right way.
Scripps Health CEO Chris Van Gorder says they were given the county plan to reopen more businesses the morning of yesterday's supervisor vote.
They didn't give us enough time to really look it over, discuss it with them. There's elements within the triggers that we have deep concerns about.
Van Gorder says the curve isn't flattening everywhere. They've been at or near capacity at their Chula Vista hospital for weeks, and he says reopening businesses could make that situation even worse.
We've had to transfer 56 patients from Chula Vista up to our northern hospitals.
Sharp Healthcare also said yesterday they hadn't received the county plan before the vote and were only shown an outline. Sharp and Scripps say currently they are handling about 60% of the county's presumed COVID-19 cases. Both healthcare giants are concerned about the triggers that could lead to restrictions coming back.
One of the triggers is hospitals reach 80% capacity for all hospital beds in the county. And the county always talks about, the 6,051 beds. That's total beds in the county. That's not intensive care unit beds. That's not negative pressure isolation rooms. So we'd be in deep trouble, long before we ever filled 80% of our beds if our ICU beds were full and our negative pressure isolation rooms were full in a COVID situation.
If Scripps and Sharp had seen the plan before the vote, they might have been able to work on a compromise with the county. UC San Diego Health and Palomar Health both said they supported the plan after meeting and going over it directly with county health officials.
I wanted to thank Patty Mason from UCSD and Diane Hansen from Palomar, from 2 large hospital systems that came down and took the time to work with our CAO and our team.
After raising their concerns, county supervisors voted unanimously to move forward with reopening. So why didn't county health officials share the plan with Scripps and Sharp in advance or ask for their perspective?
It was completed over the weekend, and we had our partners review it on Monday, and we submitted it on Tuesday evening. So so no one was left out.
County Public Health Officer Dr. Wilma Wooten says once the reopening plan was finished, they shared it.
We've reviewed the application with them, and different people have different opinions.
Scripps says they've been a good partner with the county and just want to make sure the community is safe and prepared for what could be coming. Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
Today marks a milestone. All 50 states have now partially emerged from shutdowns. It comes as the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention releases detailed guidance on how to reopen the country. Nadia Romero has the details.
For the first time since coronavirus locked down the country, all 50 states are now partially reopened.
It's been a rough time. 2 months without normal operations is not easy in the restaurant business.
Each state relaxing restrictions at different rates. In Georgia, people socially distance as they work out. But in Nevada, gyms must still stay closed.
Go!
That's prompting the owners of a Las Vegas CrossFit to organize a peaceful protest as they rally to reopen.
We need people to realize that this is a reality that's crushing families, crushing our family, and it's tough.
To guide the reopening, the CDC released a detailed roadmap for places like schools, restaurants, and childcare facilities. Among the advice, half-filled school buses with every other row clear.
The community-based community transmission that overwhelmed the public health departments in late February, March, April, that's really coming down.
A crucial aspect of the CDC guidelines, states should only open if COVID cases have gone down for 2 weeks. But as of Wednesday, in at least 18 states, new case counts are rising.
If we see dramatic increases, then yes, the way we're doing it, we can pause.
As businesses stock up on sanitizer and open their doors, one thing is clear. Life still won't be what it was before coronavirus. In Washington, Nadia Romero, KPBS News.
A second casino opened its doors today and 3 more will follow before the week ends. Temperature checks and face coverings are required for guests and staff at Sequan Casino. There is a limit on the number of people at gaming tables, and not all slot machines are turned on to encourage social distancing. The pool, buffet, and restaurants are all closed. The casinos reopening this week are on tribal land, which means they are not subject to the same state regulations as other businesses. San Diego County is increasing the number and kinds of businesses that can reopen. KPBS reporter Eric Anderson says testing is a key part of the equation for restarting the economy without restarting the pandemic.
This virus is still taking lives, over 200 lives of San Diegans. And this is still a very real bio threat.
Nick Mascione is in charge of the COVID-19 testing in San Diego County.
We're getting more people tested. I'm encouraged that people are coming up. We are making it easier for folks to get tested.
Part of that strategy is getting the testing out of hospitals and doctors' offices and into the community. That's one reason the county's Live Well mobile unit was at SDCCU Stadium on Monday. The county's Jennifer Bransford-Kuhn says people just needed to make an appointment.
We're focusing in on trying to reach as many people as we can who need testing based on the data of where testing is needed most.
County officials are boosting the number of tests they can give and broadening the criteria for people to get a test. The county can currently test 3 people for every 2,000 residents each day. They hope to boost that to 4 because state officials are using the county's testing metrics to gauge whether more businesses can reopen.
They're looking at 2 things. One, the capacity of your testing, and then the actual number of tests that you can accomplish, correct? As they're looking at that, they're looking then at your infection rate, which you're getting at. And that is, as you're testing more folks, is your infection rate higher, lower, the same?
Mascione says right now, officials are looking at who has an active infection, who tests positive. That'll help trackers identify and control local outbreaks.
then I think you'll see an increase and maybe even a shift for us as a region, as a state, as a county, as a nation, of doing diagnostic for those that we need, but then really expanding in serology.
Serology is an antibody test, one that determines whether a person has been infected. Right now, those tests have not been approved by the Centers for Disease Control. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
The Department of Justice says Governor Gavin Newsom's plan to reopen California discriminates against churches. The head of the department's Civil Rights Division wrote a letter to the governor saying he should allow some in-person worship. He argues there's an unfair burden on churches which aren't allowed to reopen while secular businesses are given the okay. A Chula Vista church has filed a lawsuit and is appealing a federal judge's denial of its request to restart in-person services. We're taking a closer look at Mayor Kevin Faulconer's revised budget proposal. KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen says state and federal aid have softened some of the cuts the mayor outlined in April.
One notable change to the budget compared to last month, the mayor no longer plans on expanding the Smart Streetlights program. Privacy advocates have attacked the program, which equips streetlights with sensors and cameras, as costly and ineffective. In other areas, the mayor was able to scale back some previously announced cuts, thanks to more than $268 million in state and federal stimulus dollars. This would mean fewer job losses, and pool and rec center hours would stay at current levels. But Faulconer says that stimulus money will eventually run out.
That's why I've also made the decision to restore $54 million in the city's emergency reserves. This is the responsible thing to do, because the road to recovery is not going to be just over the next several months. The road will be very long.
Most of the big spending cuts announced last month are still in the budget. Libraries would still close on Sundays and Mondays, tree trimming would all but disappear, and grants to arts organizations would be cut in half. City council members are due to discuss the revised spending plan on Thursday. Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
Tomorrow, the State Superintendent of Public Instruction will host a virtual town hall for all 1,000 school districts to discuss strategies for reopening safely.
Every school district is making their own decision about what form of instruction they will have when schools open. Obviously, we're working hard to make sure that we create a pathway to help our schools reopen, but we know that they will likely have to reopen with social distancing conditions in place.
Students will have to wear masks, class sizes will be smaller, and there will likely be a combination of in-school instruction and at-home learning. However, State Superintendent Tony Thurmond says because of state cuts to education, there will be no way to open schools safely without federal funding. Less than a month before the pandemic arrived in San Diego County, the Sweetwater Union High School District gave layoff notices to all of its librarians. But as KPBS education reporter Joe Hong shows us, librarians have been vital to the district's distance learning program.
This was really special to me. My mom told me that I always enjoyed going to the bookstore rather than the toy store.
Sylvia McBride is a librarian at Castle Park High School in Chula Vista. She's one of the district's 23 librarians who were notified earlier this year that they might be laid off.
It's already stressful as it is. You know, I'm trying to do my job, but also manage 2 kids and their distance learning and be supportive to my entire family and, you know, my school and my colleagues. And on top of that, I have to sit around with a ton of anxiety thinking, am I going to keep on doing this?
The district's proposal to lay off 200 employees, including all of its librarians, was part of an effort to reduce a $30 million budget deficit. As of now, the district is planning to move 18 of its librarians into teaching positions. McBride is in that group. Others aren't so lucky.
It's becoming a lot more real.
Trevor Angood is a librarian at Eastlake High School. He stands to lose his job unless the district changes its current plans. Angood said this is coming at a time when students need their librarians more than ever.
Some of it could be simple support from students asking, like, how I can't get into my teacher's Google Classroom or digital classroom. Can you help me with that? From parents, we've had questions in terms of returning books, paying fines, getting registered for next year.
District spokesman Manny Rubio said the administration is still finalizing the negotiations. Sweetwater's Teachers Union President Julie Walker said it's possible some of the librarian positions will be saved.
I've been at a school that only had a library tech, and then I came to Sweetwater and I had a librarian.
and the difference was night and day.
And Good isn't taking any chances.
In the meantime, I've been applying for jobs, interviewed for a job, and then just trying to get myself out there to sort of prepare for the worst, hope for the best.
Joe Hong, KPBS News.
We're following all of the latest coronavirus developments for you at kpbs.org. Click on the Tracking COVID-19 link on our homepage, and you'll be taken to a page with all of our recent reports. It's heating up as we get closer to Memorial Day weekend. Mark Mancuso has your forecast.
Some beautiful weather is in our future here the next couple of days. Thursday looks gorgeous. Meanwhile, Friday and Saturday, the onshore flow returns, and we'll see some cooling conditions. Most noticeable Saturday, but right after that, ridge of high pressure returns, and it warms up Sunday and Monday into Tuesday. So as we take a look at our scenario for today, the trough that's brought us the cool conditions moving east. We're in the drier air, and it's been nice. And we'll have a beautiful night tonight, down to low 50s, Oceanside, and right down to San Diego, we'll be in the low 60s. Just some patchy clouds at the coast. Interior sections nice and clear. Borrego Springs, 63, and Mount Laguna cools to 43. Hey, Thursday, sunshine, a beautiful day. Yes, this is what spring is all about, right? 95, kind of hot there in Borrego Springs. Mount Laguna's at 67. Glorious sunshine, El Cajon's 84. San Diego 74. Oceanside 75. And Friday, well, will still be pleasant, but there's a push of cooler air that'll work in Friday night into Saturday. But for Memorial Day, ridge of high pressure is building back in, and it's going to be very warm to hot. As we check out the extended forecast, well, you can see it's pleasant here the next couple of days. Saturday cooling off a bit, but then over the weekend, temperatures on the rise into Monday. As we head inland, plenty of sunshine. Isn't it nice? A little cooler here Saturday, and then the warmest day will be Monday. In the mountains, just delightful, beautiful here Monday. And across the desert regions, temperatures reaching the mid-90s, and then temperatures start to ramp up, triple digits, Sunday and Monday. It looks like a nice holiday weekend. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Mark Mancuso.
A newly released report is giving insight into a helicopter crash 2 years ago that killed 4 Marines outside of El Centro. More now from KPBS military reporter Steve Walsh.
The crash came near the end of a routine mission. April 3, 2018, 2 Super Stallion CH-53E helicopters were coming back from Marine Base 29 Palms. They were stopping at a military landing zone in the California desert before heading back to base at nearby El Centro. Dave Casey is a San Diego attorney.
They were both going together, and they were just a couple hundred feet off the ground, and suddenly one just started going down.
Quick flight lesson. Pilots of the Super Stallion tilt the overhead rotor to change direction. When the rotor tilts forward, the largest helicopter in the Marine Corps dips and picks up speed. KPBS obtained a copy of the recently completed Marine investigation into the crash. After nearly 2 years of examining the wreckage, the Marines say they believe a defective part froze the rotor in a forward tilt. As the pilot seemed to struggle to pull up, the copter dropped at least 25 feet to the ground before the crew could even radio what was happening.
So it happened very quickly, very traumatically, with no ability for the pilots to recover.
The pilot, Captain Samuel Schultz, co-pilot Lieutenant Captain Samuel Phillips, and crewman Gunnery Sergeant Derek Hawley and Lance Corporal Taylor Conrad died on impact. They were from the 3rd Marine Aircraft Wing based at Miramar. Casey represents the families of the 2 pilots.
Until that report came out, people were assuming it was pilot error. There was no pilot error. They knew what they were doing. It was a defective part.
This is not the first crash for the CH-53E, which has been in service in the Marine Corps since 1981. Last year, it passed 1 million flight miles. Journalist Jason Palladino made a documentary about the Navy's version of the same Sikorsky helicopter after his high school friend Wes Van Dorn was killed in a crash initially thought to be pilot error, but found to be caused by wiring issues. He says the aircraft's crash rate is higher than other aircraft in the military.
The other thing about this aircraft is if you look at a fatality rate, it has a much higher fatality rate than any other
aircraft. So basically, when it does crash, it's more likely to kill you, even compared to other helicopters within the military.
And it's not just deaths. In Southern California, the CH-53E has made at least 3 emergency landings in public in the last 5 years. The worst was June 15, 2019, when a Marine Super Stallion made an emergency landing at the Imperial County Airport. No one was injured. A firefighter filmed as the engine extinguished the burning copter. After years of neglect, the Marines are in the middle of what they call a reset. All 142 Super Stallions are being taken apart and rebuilt. The helicopter's replacement, the CH-53K, has been delayed until at least 2024. At the moment, Marine Corps Air Station Miramar isn't scheduled to replace the older CH-53E until at least the end of the decade. In the 2018 crash that killed 4 Marines, the attorney Casey is suing the companies that supplied the part implicated in the crash.
These were young men who had just everything to look forward to, and in the case of the 2 clients we have, they both left children, and so it's a devastating, and it was unnecessary, and it should have been avoided.
In most cases, families cannot sue the military directly. After the crash, the Marines issued a bulletin to remove the part from the other Super Stallions still in the fleet. Steve Walsh, KPBS News.
Since the start of the pandemic, Border Patrol has been sending anyone caught crossing the border back to Mexico in a matter of hours. Now, as KPBS's Max Rivlin-Nadler reports, plans are changing.
The agency says it's immediately expelling migrants in an attempt to limit the exposure of agents and the public to coronavirus. But this practice has created a crisis in northern Mexico, with the U.S. essentially shutting its doors and leaving asylum seekers and other migrants without anywhere to go amidst a global pandemic. Now, Border Patrol has announced that it has begun flying some of these individuals from San Diego to Mexico City. In a statement to KPBS, Border Patrol says it's doing this to discourage Mexican nationals who make repeated attempts to enter the U.S. illegally and bypass public health measures. But medical groups like Doctors Without Borders have criticized the government's policy of both deporting and expelling migrants during a global health crisis. They say it doesn't help protect public health in the U.S. or abroad and risks spreading the virus even further.
Some Mexicans that are crossing the border, not only they are taken and without any measure, paperwork, and far less any health measure, they are sent back to Mexico. It's not possible, as we are saying, to take all the necessary measures to ensure that we are not sending people, with the virus from the United States to Mexico.
The flights will leave San Diego International Airport and will be flown by Immigration and Customs Enforcement. These individuals being expelled will be accompanied by those who are being formally deported by the government. Border Patrol says each individual will be medically screened before boarding a flight and will not be held in the U.S. for longer than 24 to 36 hours. The first flight of migrants being expelled took off on Tuesday. Max Rivlin-Nadler, KPBS News.
After one day of diverting COVID-19 patients to San Diego hospitals, Imperial County announced today that its 2 hospitals are again accepting patients with the virus. Today's decision was made after a one-day spike this week in cases. Our partner iNewsSource had reported that emergency rooms in El Centro and Brawley stopped accepting COVID patients on Tuesday and that some were sent here. Hospital officials said the rise in cases was due to U.S. citizens living in Mexico coming to Imperial County for care. For more on this story, go to iNewsSource.org. During this pandemic, your family's health is a top priority, but many are avoiding doctors' offices these days for routine visits, including regular checkups for children. Melissa Rainey explains.
Everyone is waiting for the day when there is a vaccine for the coronavirus in hopes that things will start going back to normal. Unfortunately, while we wait, many parents are avoiding other vaccines. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, there has been a notable decrease in childhood vaccines ordered through the federal program that immunizes half of the country's children. The drop began the week after President Trump declared a national emergency due to the COVID-19 outbreak. In Washington state, the state health department saw a 30% drop in childhood vaccines in March, and preliminary data shows a 42% decrease in April. The CDC says while it might not be an issue now, once social distancing is relaxed, those who aren't immunized will once again be at risk. The American Academy of Pediatrics says if children are not getting their regular vaccines, they are likely missing other important checkups like developmental screenings. They're urging pediatricians and parents to stay on top of it and reassuring nervous parents that it's safe to visit their doctor. For today's Health Minute, I'm Melissa Rainey.
An update now on our top story today. Hopes were high that restaurants in San Diego County might be welcoming customers back to dine in this evening, but the state has yet to give the go-ahead. Today's county health officials announced 8 more people have died from the coronavirus. 114 new cases were also reported, following the biggest single day for testing yet. This could be a new fun way to meet up with friends for happy hour while staying 6 feet apart. It's a bar in Ocean City, Maryland. It's planning to roll out these custom bumper tables once they resume dine-in service. Customers stand in the middle of the inner tube table, and then they can wheel around to safely socialize. Genius. You can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org/evening edition. Thank you for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.